On this episode of AV Week, AVIXA is reaching outside the AV industry to get more interest in the AV industry. What trade shows should you as an integrator be going to? And the importance of regional experience centers. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 346, recorded Friday, April 13th, 2018. Outside Outreach.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Utelegy and by vaddio, a leading manufacturer of professional PTZ cameras, Pro AV solutions, and UCC integration systems.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to talk about the news and information we have gathered this week for the Pro AV industry. First and foremost, his name is Luke Jordan, and he is from Electroacoustics out of Fort Worth, Texas. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Tim. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Also with us is an old friend of mine. His name is Chris Miller. He is from PSNI. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for letting me jump on with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Our top story here comes to us from SCN Magazine. AVIXA, the Audiovisual Integrated Experience Association, is taking part in the International Hotel Technology Forum, May 15th to the 17th. AVIXA CEO Dave Labuscas will chair a discussion on audiovisual experiences in hotel design. This actually comes after months of Labuscas, Vice President Dan Goldstein, and other AVIXA staffers attending and presenting at forums and meetings outside of the AV industry. This, according to SCN, is quote-unquote part of AVIXA's strategic effort to increase awareness in a variety of markets. Luke, I want to start with you on this. Why do you think, in your opinion, why are they doing this outreach?
Well, it's the sick that need a doctor. Doctors don't really treat each other as much as they treat their patients. So in the same way, saying that we're going outside of our industry to talk about the benefits of AV, I just don't even agree with that. I think other industries need AV, so we're going to the people that need our products, services, and solutions and showing them how it's going to make their industry better, make their experience better, and how they do what they do and how they connect with their target audience.
Chris, as a past president of the formerly known Infocom AVIXA ICIA, I think actually is what they were called when you were president. Does this make sense to you, reaching out, like Luke said, to industries that need us and need the technologies and the experiences that we can provide?
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, and it's the evolution of our industry. Associations tend to do what individuals, members can't do for themselves, or that they can't influence enough by their own activities to make a difference. And that's where, as a group, we're always stronger and better together. So if the trend is that we're looking to discuss this experience and make it better for everyone, then identifying those verticals is a great way to do it. Anytime we're in a meeting with our members, and when it comes to marketing, we talk an awful lot about, we spend too much time pontificating with each other. We really want to talk to our end user. How do we do that? And as of today, we're trying to do that through some form of social media to the best of our ability. But, that's like chipping away in granite in the big picture. That's not making a big splash for us as an industry. So I see this working, and it's a place to start. As Infocom AVIXA, for years we spent a tremendous amount of money trying to identify what our industry was to end users, with minimal success, still an unknown quantity, not perceived as a professional group per se, all the way to recruiting of employees to end users of knowing who to call when they needed things. So it seems to me that this is a great place to start, but it's not the end. It should only be the beginning of the verticals of which they go after. At the same time, it's not a new concept, right? So we've been, as an industry, as integrators, we know that as the internet has come in and taking such a strong position on the product side, we have to provide integrated solutions. The more we become experts in vertical markets, from retail digital signage to broadcast, the more that customer perceives a value-added understanding of what they do. So whether it's the hotel industry or if it's the worship market or whatever it is, this is a good place to start.
Luke, Chris mentioned that he thinks that this should be only be the beginning. If I'm understanding your position, you're kind of agreeing with that. So where else should they go? They've been to retail. They've been now they're connecting with the hotel. I know that they've done a couple with architects as well. Where else should either Mr. Labuscus or some other AVIXA staffer head off to?
I think architects is a big one for our industry. You develop a relationship with an end user, they build so many buildings, and then they're done for a while. An architect is constantly doing that. So talking with architects about how to design a room that works well with AV instead of just putting boxes in the room after the fact is huge. So I think architects is one of the more important relationships that AV should be focusing on grooming, on collaborating and working together. I think entertainment just has unlimited possibilities. I don't know if you guys saw the article that came out on esports.
Yeah.
And how the city of Arlington here in Texas is redeveloping their convention center around esports. In fact, they want to become the esports hub of the world because that vertical, that niche doesn't really have a home, and there's only so many venues that can do that. And that's very AV, very experience driven. And so I think finding these little niches that need a lot of AV instead of just finding general markets that could use some AV, I think is really important, because that really highlights the full height and depth of what type of experiences we can offer. I think that's going to be something that's very visible to other markets that are looking at these small segments.
I would actually agree with you. And really quickly, Luke, those of us who are headed to Infocom this June in Las Vegas, if you are interested in looking at that specific vertical, meaning the esports venue, there's one called Esports Arena, which opened up here. In Vegas. I'm not in Vegas, but in Vegas, so you can check that out when you head to Infocom. Chris, I was end up with you on this question. Same kind of question though. Luke mentioned architects and he mentioned esports. Where else should the AVIXA team head off to?
I think it's kind of a challenge, and it's one thing for us to identify. If you look at most integrators, you'll find that we're pretty categorized. The majority of our work is done in the three big verticals: corporate, education, and government. And then you'll trickle down into 3% residential, 5% worship and medical and digital signage, and on and on and on and on. So you certainly want to stick with the big three first, where you can make the most traction, make awareness of our industry to us. But you also have to find verticals that want to learn more about us. Well, the sports side has been, there are several shows and events that are very covered with us. I think the corporate side we've done pretty well. The government, there are sections of the government we've done pretty well with. When you get in those subcategories of use, that's a different story. Then we got to find, I need to identify those. Integrators need to tell us who they are as well, and allow and bubble that up to Infocom or AVIXA and see if they can get some traction with that. It's a two-way street. They got to want to partner with us to do that. Obviously, they've built a good relationship with this particular group for this synergy to kind of take place, and that's probably where it starts.
Yeah,
and what I like about that too, Chris, is it's AVIXA, it's my association kind of fostering that relationship that really lets me as an integrator come in and say, all right, so you know about this need, here's the solutions we can provide. It really it creates room to grow. And so I think that's kind of what I expect as my association, as we're here and we've got 30 folks in Texas. We have limited scope. We have limited ability to go out and make that connection. That's something that 11,000 member association can do.
Right.
Actually,
and that's what they should do. We can't do for ourselves.
Yeah, well, it actually brings up another good question, and I don't know the answer to this, and it may be unfair for me to even pontificate this out loud. How then does AVIXA get that information to you guys as integrator, Luke? Is there a mechanism, or is it they're just making it aware, and then you guys are going to walk in the door the next day or the next week or the next month after this architect has attended this conference where Dave Labuscas has spoken at?
Well, for one thing, I think that's one of the value-added benefits of being an AVIXA member is, they've got the IOTA, which is, your global trends, your economic analysis. So they do a lot of research as far as this is where we're seeing growth. Or I think I saw 50% of end users are buying their displays through commercial markets or whatever. So they're giving us these trends and insights. But then it's up to me as an integrator to be paying attention to say, okay, how does that affect me in Fort Worth, Texas? How does that affect me and where I'm at? And how do I leverage the weight of my AVIXA membership? Do I just use it for standards and training, or do I use it to provide direction for growth of my company, which is something that I'm not saying I do well enough, but this would be definitely a great avenue to really start doing that. So the other half of that is, as an integrator, I've got to give that feedback back to AVIXA. Like, hey, I really like what you're doing by meeting with the International Hotel Technology Forum. Great move. How can I get in on that? How can I support you? Do you know where you want to go next? Can I give you my ideas? If I don't communicate with them, then I can't expect them to communicate with me. So like Chris said, it's a two-way street. And I'm sure Dave would be more than happy to chat about, okay, where else should we do this? Because this has been really good every time we've done it so far.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on to our next story is from AV Magazine. Harman Professional Solutions has opened the Harman Experience Center in London. The facility will highlight the integrated solutions of AMX, JBL, BSS Audio, Lexicon, honestly, the entire Harman Pro line. It also highlights Samsung integration, much like the Los Angeles Experience Center does. Chris, I want to start with you on this, whether it's from the integration standpoint or looking at it maybe through manufacturer's eyes. What do centers like these do for integrators, for manufacturers, and for getting end users their hands on this equipment and seeing what they can do?
Yeah, so there's a lot of opinions and positions on this. Probably all are right in some respect. Some of this has occurred out of what has happened in the channel, that being mergers and acquisitions. So manufacturers buy more brands that were successful, and then if they're not careful or their strategy is not well in place, those brands get lost in the shuffle when they bring them all together. They may consolidate their channel. They may change their touch points with their salespeople. And what happens is something that they acquired for technology or for their market share then starts to slide because it got lost in the big brand. Experience centers are a great way to showcase those brands within the encompassing of a company, whether it be Harman or anybody else. It's happening all over. You know, the second thing that's taken place is obviously over a decade or so, manufacturers have tended to say they have become more agnostic, that they're more interested in the solution that they provide, the value add that they provide for that customer. When that occurs, they shift their emphasis from showcasing the products and their technology more to showcasing their skill sets and services they offer. So if we as an industry on the integration side aren't as enamored with the process of being their marketing arm, which we're not, that's not our job,
No.
then they have to step up and do that for themselves. And what do we all want? We all want the end user. So they want access to that end user today. For the most part, our members of our organization, you know, literally around the world, and this isn't a vertical group, they're not always comfortable with that. They're not always comfortable with a solution that a manufacturer who has provided bought a lot of different disciplines in order to provide what they perceive to be a complete solution. All of those companies together may not be equal to a solution they can put together that's not encompassing one brand. So tend not to want to push that. On the other hand, if you look at many of these experience centers that have been put in around the world, the people who tend to go to them are us. We go to them too. We want to see all that because it's what we see between shows and events. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword. I don't know if that's the question you're asking, Tim, but that's kind of the answer I gave.
No, it's actually perfectly works well. It actually leads into a question for Luke. You know, Chris mentioned the fact that AV professionals go to these as well as the end users. I mentioned the Los Angeles Experience Center that Harman put in. We got the chance to go out there and do some interviews, and it was a very neat venue. It was fully integrated with nothing but Harman's and Samsung products. They were showing several different use cases, but I can absolutely see, you know, Luke or Chris and PSNI members taking their customers there to show them the possibilities, right? If you're looking for retail and finding out what is possible as far as retail or staging, or they even had a live theater presentation at the one in Los Angeles at least. So Luke, is this something, or a venue like this, something that you could see taking your clients or potential clients to, and to give them an idea of some of the experiences that are possible?
It depends. So we're not a national firm. We have one location in Fort Worth, and that's really where we want to be focused. So if they open one up in DFW, then sure, I'd do that. But until then, I'm really marketing my solutions as an integrator, not the solutions that the technology I pick offers, because I'm not offering gear. That's not my value. I'm not going to install gear that doesn't perform, that doesn't meet the need. So if it's Harman or someone else, and I am a Harman dealer, it's not so much, you know, you have some clients that are really up to date on, you know, they go to InfoComm, they go to trade shows and do their own research, and they say, we want a Harman experience. Or, you know, and some of these manufacturers do a great job of, they just have people that go out and connect to end users and get end users asking dealers for their equipment. And that's it's great when someone calls me up and says, hey, are you a Harman dealer? Let's do business. I love that phone call. But for me, being a local integrator, it's just easier for me to go and take a potential client to an install that I've already done that solved a similar problem, and then I can say, instead of talking to a manufacturer, talk to this church, talk to this school, talk to this performing arts venue, and ask the people that run it, operate it, and perform in this space what they think. So then you're actually talking to people to have spent that money, made that investment, and 3, 5, 10 years later are stuck with the solution that I gave them. Are you still happy with it? And to me, that's a huge marketing and sales tool over this manufacturer likes their products, and it's an ecosystem that can provide this experience.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I actually had a really great conversation about this earlier in the week about Extron and how they pulled out of trade shows, and they have their kind of Extron headquarters, and you can go there and see their products. And you have, they've got restaurants, they've got spaces that you can rent out, they've got live shows and stuff going on the weekend. It also creates a hub just for them as a company. Their executives meet for lunch in the cafeteria, and there's just a lot of synergy going on that campus with their products, and they allow their in-use facility to be their outreach instead of going to a trade show, having a cramped booth that gets lost, and saying, here's the technology, imagine the experience. So I think there is a good case for having this. And I think that this is good for the industry to have it because it does paint a picture of what you could be doing. But for me as a local integrator, I wouldn't say that that's a huge pull.
That makes
So
sense.
it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Actually, want to wrap up today. Our last story is about trade shows in general. This week, Las Vegas wrapped up both the National Association of Broadcasters annual U.S. show, NAB is what it's called. NAB brings traditional AV companies like Vaddio and Chief. Actually, that is one of the shows that Extron still does show at is at NAB. In addition to that, you have ISC West this week, which is a security show. Middle Atlantic is there, Z-Wave, and other traditional AV integrators. We here at AVNation have been receiving press releases for these for about a month or so. In the fall, you have IBC, which actually takes place at the RAI in Amsterdam. It's the European version of NAB. Chris, I want to start with you on this. These broadcasting and security shows and shows like these, do these make sense both for manufacturers to exhibit and for maybe integrators to attend and see what's going on there?
It's been kind of interesting. Certainly NAB's been around for many, many years, and I've certainly been to many, many of their shows. It has had sustainability for an industry, the broadcast industry, as we would refer to, which is a pretty broad umbrella of applications that's gone through tremendous change from analog to digital, terrestrial to streaming, all in between. They have survived, and they've survived as one of the largest shows in our space. There's a lot of things that I think are going on there that I was reading in that press release. There were 200 new manufacturers at that show. Yep. That's certainly a healthy indicator of growth and an industry when you see that many new manufacturers coming into a space. And let's face it, there's tremendous amount of the barriers of entry to be in the content business are so low today, the cost of equipment compared to what it was, that there's still a tremendous amount of end users that go to that show. And as end users can become part of these shows, they have much better chance of surviving. And NAB has survived because it's a real end user show.
Yeah. Luke, I want to end with you on this. Obviously, we cover, AVNation covers, we cover ISE in Amsterdam every year. We've started going to DSE and FOCOM coming up in June in about 2 months' time. From your standpoint as an integrator in Fort Worth, Texas, what are the shows that as an integrator you think that these are the absolute must-attends? Maybe not every year, but at least every other year as an integrator in the audiovisual industry.
Yeah, I think the qualifier there that you said is in Fort Worth, Texas. I keep bringing back this, local boy mentality.
How about Texas in general, or maybe the South Like a Southwest.
It's not even regional. It's just cost. It's overhead for me. It's what is the value. So last year we sent several engineers and several sales guys to Infocom, and everyone did a kind of 3-day course, and then hit the show floor, and maybe some education during the show. And then we came back and we had to do products, and we had education on tuning systems, on network security, on AV over IP, stuff that we hadn't really done a lot of. And so for us, it was this: how do we design systems differently? How do we sell systems differently? This year we're sending 2 people, 1 engineer and 1 salesman. And we're not doing any education before. We're just doing the show floor, looking at products, and developing better relationships with our key vendors and clients. But then we also went to NSCA's BLC in Dallas just last month.
Yep.
And I go to AVEC with AVIXA. So we do more business and leadership development than we do actual technology and trends. But really, we can't afford to do more than that. So we really have to pick it carefully. And so if a product's going to be at a niche trade show, but then it's also going to be at something like Infocom, where it really does have just a little bit of everybody, then I'm just going to go to the one big show a year that's got everything. I know Brock McGinnis had a great article on AV Network about how he really, really, really liked ISE, and he enjoyed the experience of ISE over in Amsterdam. But again, I've been told it's not that big of a difference between going to Vegas and going to Amsterdam, but it is for me. Even if just a little bit of a difference, I'm not staying at the hotel where the trade show is happening. I'm staying about 1.5 miles away, and I'm going to Uber a couple times a day in Vegas this summer. That's where our head is at. But we still get a lot of value out of it. We just have to really count our pennies and make sure that we're doing that, because what we're there to do is to wow our customers, not wow ourselves. And our experience happens after the trade show, not during.
That's actually a really good point to end on, is that you're there to wow your customer, not yourself. So I like that. All right, gentlemen, that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much, Mr. Luke Jordan from Electroacoustics out of Fort Worth. How do people find you if they're so inclined?
You can find me at Twitter at Luke Jordan EAVI or EAVI.com.
All right, very good. And Mr. Miller, sir, from PSNI, how do people find you?
Chris Miller, C. Miller, PSNI.org, or check us out at PSNI.org on the web.
All right, very good. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me on the Twitters at this point. I'm still crying over the fact that the Blues aren't in the playoffs. But go by the website, if you would, please, AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others, including a brand spanking new AV Social. We interviewed Kimberly Lancaster and some of her Caster Communications team about the importance of awards, both in the manufacturing and actually integration side, and how folks can use that and how they can get awards. So check that out, all that at AVNation. Also, while you're there, check out our underwriter section. These are the folks in the companies who support us financially, and they help us bring you AVWeek, AV Social, and in about 2 months' time, Infocom 2018 coverage. All that and more at AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AVWeek.